Wayover is a enjoyer of the arts. He loves all kinds of reading, writing, poetry, music, art, you name it, he likes it. I respect it a lot. Um, he has a gift for narration. He is a type of person is extremely good at constructive criticism. Has helped me a couple times with poetry and stuff like that, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah,
So,
I crashed and burned with my haiku I posted. Yeah, I got humbled that night. It was pretty embarrassing.
why? It was a good attempt.
It was sweet. They were just don't worry, Candy. They were just ragging on you.
Well, yeah, I didn't realize there were so many rules to haiku.
Oh
There
yeah,
are. It's a
poets
very old poetry style in Japan.
and
So,
with the
of course.
Japanese. Oh, the Japanese, like they layer rules and ideas and like
Hmm.
abstractions onto every single thing they do. Like their tea ceremony. Like
Yeah.
it's like they don't just pour tea. You have to kneel in an exact way, or you have like insulted their entire generation. It's like, come on, guys. I would just like some tea. Well, when I was in college, I went to art school for a while. Ah, the memories. That was 2012.
For
Or
college?
no, not 2012, 2005. Sorry. I was thinking of when I
2005 for
graduated
college?
college. Yeah, that was my first year of college was 2005.
I see, yeah, so you can't call me old anymore.
Oh no, I'm
I
ancient.
still will because you turned around and were like, "I'm much older and wiser than you, Ezio." Okay, sure, why not?
Oh, Candy, you pull the old card. You gotta
She did.
keep it played.
I gotta own
That's what
it.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
Wear it with pride.
I do. I do.
And she does not. Every time I call her old, she's like, "Ezio, don't call me old." So she says that, but she's lying.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
But as your rival slash nemesis, she's practically like obliged to object to anything you
Yeah,
say.
exactly. Thank
Her
you.
responsibility. Yeah,
It
it's
was
like a
traumatic.
superhero and a supervillain. You start out kind of rocky. You're getting to know each other, pulling heists and confronting each other and knock down a couple skyscrapers. I'll be back, mwahaha. But then eventually you'll get into the rhythm of it. You'll
Yeah.
learn
Hmm.
each other's quirks, set up just the right trap with callbacks to your heyday and your good times you've had together, and you'll develop that rapport.
Yeah,
I
it's,
think we're already getting to that point, to be honest. It's not. It's very easy sometimes to get her in a joke. She takes
yeah.
the bait very often. It's very funny.
I do what?
You take the bait very often when I put out like bait for a joke. You just take it immediately.
So you're saying I should just ignore it?
Well, I'm saying that if like I'm saying that you don't know when I'm trying to bait you into a joke or not.
Oh,
Or
this is
maybe I
getting meta.
know and I'm just trying to entertain everybody else.
I don't believe you. I think that you're just completely. I don't want to say inept, but you're not. ah,
As
How
your
do I
rival,
phrase this? Yeah. How do I phrase this without being extremely offensive? You're naive when it comes to
Wow.
my humor.
Okay.
Oh, you're calling the old people naive, are you?
I'm
Yeah.
going. Listen, way over. You're my brother. You're not old. Candy has an ancient mead from Babylon, the year 300 AD, that she got that day. She went out and bought it, and it's in her fridge right now. I guarantee it.
Listen,
Oh man.
it's an investment.
Here, way over. I found some pictures you might actually enjoy. This is from an artist who came over in 1911 from Japan to America, and he painted everything in like the Japanese style.
Oh,
I like the one he got from San Francisco. It's very cool.
look at that.
And that's so cool. It's so fascinating how
What kind of
different
art
like
is it?
Japanese. That's traditional Japanese art.
Is it paint?
It
Yes.
looks lovely.
It's
And
almost like
it's
comic book.
Yeah,
so precise.
it is. Dude, it's so good. It's so nice. Like just the way that just to see it from the perspective of like a Japanese person, like to see how they see our environment. Like obviously we're used to, but to see it through their perspective and their form of art is really cool.
Mm, that mountain. Wow.
Yeah, I like the one where it's like the mountain. You see the church, like you see like the church steeple. That's so nice. That looks like almost like Wyoming or something, or not Wyoming, like Montana or something.
It looks like they're posterized.
Kinda does.
So good.
Ooh, Eye of Sauron.
Yeah, the one with the sun coming through the trees. It's gorgeous.
Oh, oh,
You got one
look
of
at that.
Arizona.
Yeah, that desert shot is so cool.
Yeah, it's so good. I just love their style. I love like the pigments they use.
Yeah, that is brilliant.
There's one
They
thing I've really noticed in European and like Western art is they use a lot of like vibrant pigments, but in Eastern art they don't. A lot of it's like drab, but the way that they use it paints like a vivid perspective of something. Like it's really it's not flashy. It's not flashy art. It's very
Mm,
subtle.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. You can especially see it in those winter shots. It's
Yeah,
they will they save the vibrancy for just the right moments.
yeah.
Are you
I
more
really
into
appreciate it.
Wayovers? Are you more into art or like literature?
Well, um, it's I'm a famously hard person to classify, but I love a whole bunch of things, but I focus on literature. I went to art school right out of high school because I thought I was going to be a video game designer.
No
And
way.
yeah, that was my goal. And all throughout high school, I'd been designing these ideas for video games, and I've been making platformers ideas. I'd been making RPG ideas. I'd been developing these stories. Like I want these concepts, and I'd create characters for them. And I
So
had
so sorry. So really, you were interested in the story aspect, not necessarily the game aspect.
Yeah, I was more familiar with the story aspect. I wasn't as familiar with a variety of game concepts, but I loved the idea a of taking a story, of taking a world, of taking characters, of taking a way of being and immersing people in it. So that was where a lot of my inspiration came from, the chance to play through a story.
Were there games that
And
made you want to do that?
oh
That
yeah,
inspired you?
one of the first that just opened my eyes to the potential was when I was about 14. Um, my dad left our family when I was pretty young, about 10, and he moved to another part of the country, like so far away. And yeah, I was in Hawaii at the time, and he left to like Maryland, the other side of the nation. So I didn't get to visit him again for several years until we moved back to the mainland. And so when when I finally went to visit him for the first time in years on years, I was about maybe 14, and he was and he had a PlayStation, and he had the game Final Fantasy IX. And I only got to play the beginning of this game, but the beginning of that game was just it just floored me with how immersive it was, how it immediately sucked me into this grand story with this full cast of characters from all these different perspectives and different ways of being, of acting, of moving. And I was so inspired. I thought it was just a moment of wonder.
Yeah, I've
C.S.
never
Lewis
played
taught
those before.
You haven't
they're
played a single Final Fantasy?
No.
They're really good. Like I played Final Fantasy 15. It's
Are,
good. It's a good game.
are they still coming out with new ones?
Yes.
they
Well,
are.
currently
They've
they're doing a remake, but
Yes, they've changed their style considerably. The in the beginning, the franchise has been around forever. I think the first Final Fantasies were coming out on the Famicom, the Nintendo. So it was a um and it was based apparently on a lot of old D&D mechanics. So uh so you would have turns. Your characters would take turns based on an initiative system, fighting monsters, and randomizers would be going on in the background, and the monsters would fight back. So you had this kind of um, this overworld experience, and then you would randomly run into an encounter.
That sounds like fun. I want to
Pokemon.
hear.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you were going on about C.S. Lewis.
Oh yeah, C.S. Lewis. That moment when I played Final Fantasy IX, there's this there's this experience C.S. Lewis talks about in his um, autobiography, Surprised by Joy, and he talks about when he was a kid, and he had first explored this little. I think it may have been this rock or this little mini terrarium or something, and he looked at how this little tiny world, and he said that it felt like he was glimpsing something that he had always that he knew was supposed to be there but had never seen and was yearning for. It was this sense of wonder and this sense of what he called joy. It was this longing, but also a sense of partial fulfillment of that longing. And so he carried this idea with him throughout the rest of his life that the joys that we experience in life are glimpses of the life that we are destined for, that the experience of heaven and and our experiences of joy are little glimpses into that future world.
That's really
And
cool.
I loved it, and this was my first taste of it. Or, well, not my first taste, but it's one of those memorable ones that was like, video games are the future. They're the medium. I need to tell stories in this way.
So, what made you switch off of that?
Well, for one thing, I was in school, and people loved my ideas. I'm an idea machine, always have been. And I was doing a good job, and I ran into a problem. Uh, my problem that I ran into was my morals, because knowing myself, knew that I could not look at naked people and be okay with it. And unfortunately, the I would have to take figure drawing at some point. And I hadn't really realized that because I did things just with the sense that I think this is where I'm supposed to be going. I'm going to go that way. Everything will work out. and and so I didn't look that far into the future of the class syllabus, just like, okay, when I get out the other side of this, I'll be a video game designer. And I, but as part of the art foundation training, I saw that I'd have to take figure drawing, and when I researched into what that entailed, yeah, I'd be sitting there staring at models and having to draw them as accurately as I can. And there are people who don't have to worry about that. But I'm not one of those people. And I wrestled with it a lot. And I knew what was inside me. I was like, this could wreck my entire future. It wrecks everything that I had planned for myself.
Wow.
But I feel like this is just something I can't get away from. This is something I need to do. So I talked to my mom about it. I was like, I'm sorry, Mom, I've got to get out of this. So I did. And
Well, good for you.
left art school behind. And then I went to become a doctor. And
Really?
yeah,
A
I was,
doctor?
I thought that because I had received this message when I was a child that I should be, that I was supposed to be a doctor, pilot, farmer, um, something, and pastor and evangelist. So there's like five things. And I was like, that's what
You
I'm
could
going to be.
you
So
could totally do all of those at the same time.
You
you
could.
can. And that's what I thought I was supposed to do. So I was like, all right, that's the sign from God. Doing the video game thing wasn't the right idea. I'm going to go and do pre-med. And I flunked bad. My first courses, I went into this. I went from a tiny little art school that suited my little crazy creative brain, and I jumped immediately into a commuting to a public university while trying to work at a coffee shop.
Oh boy.
Oh
And
man.
I went into a huge depression, and I think I got a really low score. I think I may have, I don't think I got 50% um, in that class. It was less than an F. General chemistry. I failed utterly.
You know, that's how you
And
know you're meant to be a creative person, because trying to fit yourself in that kind of box is really depressing. It's
it
Yeah.
tough.
is so depressing.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
had that.
so
I had a degree in accounting and like was faking it the whole time,
hmm.
and yeah, that did not last long. So I relate to that.
There's a one of the things that I used to worry about a bunch was how am I going to know what God's will for me is? And so I'd be looking around every little corner and reading every little sign in the wind to in case I miss God's will for me. And what I learned through that whole experience was I don't have to worry about missing God's will for me. He will make his will for me inescapably clear.
Yeah,
And yeah, and so the important thing was to keep moving. And so
yeah. That's
I
great
was
advice.
and so you got to you got and then God will guide you through your movement. And he and I tried, okay, I was like, all right, Lord, I'm not a doctor. All right. So scrap that idea. I will go be a writer. I was like, I love writing. I know I'm going to write regardless of whether I go to school or not. I absolutely love writing. I've been writing ever since I was in high school as well. I was writing poems, I was writing short stories, I was trying to write longer stories and failing, but that was just because I'm not the best at planning. But everything else was working great. I had the ideas down, and I was just pumping out songs.
So you didn't go to
I've
school for it?
No. I took a bunch of literature classes in college, and that was how I learned that I hated a lot of contemporary literature. Ernest Hemingway drove me insane.
Really?
Oh,
Just
dude.
he was so dark
He
and
is.
just like broiling in depression. It was it's rough for me to keep an idea of the of what I learned in my history classes, but the general idea was that when people were in a time of prosperity, they tended to grow decadent and they tended to loosen the boundaries of what they wanted to do.
Yeah,
And
that reminds
then
me of like the Israelites and how when they were in God's blessing, they started to wander away.
It's arrogance.
it's
They
very
think that
similar.
everything's like gonna go great because society's good. Then they get slapped down to reality repeatedly.
Yeah, seriously. The problem with that cycle is that when people are returning to the Lord, and or they're it's not as a movement, as a societal movement, they're not necessarily returning to the Lord so much as they're returning to their roots. So there was a great surge in religiosity. There was a great surge in returns to church. There was a great surge in family-friendly entertainment. There was a great surge in traditional Christian values, but there was also a huge surge in family abuse
Really?
with these post-war veterans who are coming back with PTSD with uh and with a bunch of military life behind them and no tools to cope. And they were going back to these traditional views of families and family roles that led to a bunch of horrible family patterns and where whole neighborhoods would be enabling the abuse the of women and children because they thought that's just how it was done. I my and then that persisted so long. I remember my mom uh when she first married my dad. Um, my grandfather, my dad's dad, was a very strict man. He was very austere, but um, he rarely beat his children. There were times, though, that he did. And what my grandmother was told was that she was lucky that my grandfather did not beat her. And when my mom married my dad never did anything like that to my mom. He wasn't a great guy, but he never did anything like that. And there were lots of things that he did that my mom would get very upset about. And what my dad's mother, my grandmother, told my mother was that she should be lucky that my dad didn't beat her.
That's crazy. I can't even
That
fathom that.
we can't fathom that because we grow up in a different society, a society that fought back against that. Unfortunately, a lot of the fighting back against that, the devil is extremely subtle in the way he does this,
Hmm.
but but he diverts the attempt to be godly. He diverts the attempt to be good, and he creates straw men out of every holy thing and turns it into a monster. And that, so he takes the deceptions that he feeds into one group and allows it to take root enough that it becomes, it seems like the thing to do. And then another group rises up to fight back against the evils that are interwoven in it. And then they fight against the good within it as well. They see the whole package as evil. And they form their own replacement that has some good and some evil in it. That another group comes up and fights against the evil and the good within that. So he ends up creating, instead of good against evil, a one mixed bag against another mixed bag. And and then we get caught in this false dilemma between these mixed bags of good and evil that the devil has been carefully cultivating to appeal to different aspects of our fallen nature.
Oh, that's such an interesting way of looking at it. It just makes so much sense, like looking at the world today. And
Yeah.
like I'm a very moderate person, and like looking at different sides of people on like the political spectrum and just like different worldviews, I'm like, why are we like? I don't want to take sides because I don't like either side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm the same.
and it's amazing. And one of the greatest lies that the devil pulls is so close to the truth because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that is that if you don't pick one of the two sides, then you are automatically letting the other side win.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's rough, man. Because you see it even in like the church.
Yeah.
Um, like you just see all the different denominations and sects just going after each other when there's good in all of it. Is there some bad? Yes, but there's a whole lot of good that we could be putting together to make a whole church that, because of arrogance and pride and blindness and what's the term that people use? Was it tribalism? Where like you
Yeah.
have your own little yeah, try and all the tribalism within the church, it's extremely hard to even open up talks about making one united church again.
I have hopes though. I feel like there's more like young people that are really serious about learning about other denominations and stuff.
I mean,
I'd like to
same
think there
here,
are.
but it's just every time I see it, I just know that there's going to be, for every one person that has an open mind, there's like five who are like, I don't like, I don't like Presbyterians because of Calvinist theology, and then you have like some non-denominational who's like, oh well, I don't like all the conservative Christianity, and then you have the Orthodox who's like, you're all just heretics, and then the
Mhm.
Orthodox and the Catholic guy just start fighting with each other. Like this is how it is.
You were
It
Yeah.
literally acting like that today when I was talking about church
No, I
membership.
have not. Listen. I have a few gripes about what is it, membership within a church, because I don't see that when I read the New Testament when Jesus was talking.
No, I understand.
You know what I mean?
Andy,
It's not like it's like
this
a world shattering like no, I can't have that. It's just I don't think it's good. I think that it's very divisive, especially with what I told you about the issues I had dealing with membership where they slammed a door in my face and told me to kick rocks
That's crazy.
because I wasn't a member of their church. So it's like yeah, I've had bad experiences with membership, so I don't like seeing it.
Way over. Were you gonna say something?
Oh, I was just gonna make a little snide comment that other people have logs, we have decorative I-beams.
Oh, yeah, that's
But
true.
it's a but I've had my share of bad church experiences as well.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
Thankfully,
yeah.
blessedly few. My personal view on that, on the unification of the church, is that it won't happen until the very end of the end times. It's we the extent of the traditions is such that we will hold to them until there's something even greater that shines its light onto our condition. So that's commonly that's persecution. And it's not that I want that necessarily. And I'd hate it when people talk that way. Like there's a lot of mainstream Bible
Talking what way?
teachers and pastors that really drive me nuts, like John Piper. John Piper drives me nuts so
Oh,
much
I feel like
because
that's an unpopular opinion.
it is, and I there's people who will just like adore John Piper, and they love how he talks about how desiring God is the one thing in this world, and in a sense, yes, totally. The thing is that he feeds it with so much um so much despising of everything else, and
Like
that
trying to take you out of the
that
world almost.
exactly, it's Neoplatonist. And he would say no, it's not, because he would point out all the differences between his views and Neoplatonism. But the issues with his similarity to Neoplatonism is not his confessional theology, but not his orthodoxy, so to speak, but his practice, his how his views result in practice ends up straying a lot into Neoplatonist ideals of being severe with the body and desiring nothing but the spiritual. It's
That's
and
almost
he
like
would
Buddhism.
exactly. It's Buddhism has a lot of similarities to Neoplatonism. That's there's a lot of views can be put into those two camps of either austere or hedonistic, and that's a and you can pretty well divide them that way. Like your Stoics are over on this side, and your Epicureans are over on the other side.
There's been such an increase in Stoics online. I don't know if you guys have seen
Yeah,
that.
I've
Oh
noticed. I
yeah.
know somebody who's like, dude, Stoicism's awesome. I'm like, the Bible's better, pal.
Yeah, but it's a lot of that's a pushback because we've been in an age that has so much at its disposal, and we are part of a caste that has so much at its disposal. There's places all over the world that are in abject poverty, going through absolutely horrible conditions. They're under the heel of corruption. And so we are skewed in our perceptions, living in the cream of the crop of society. There's things about the world that we don't understand, but from what we can see in among those like us and in our situation of having wealth and relative security from a well-funded and relatively well-administered super national superpower, we have the ability to say, okay, I can have so many of my desires gratified. I can go to the movies. I can eat an amazing stuffed I can get stuffed with a delicious meal at a restaurant. I can live in an apartment that gets pest control. I can buy a mansion. You know, it's like not everyone say that. But just those basics we can
You just
have
take for
books.
granted.
We take it for granted a lot of the time. But those things are delights. Those are pleasures. Those are luxuries. And it's fantastic that we have them. There are people who will say it's not, and they're wrong. God, it's what God wants for everyone. And he wants them to never lose sight of him in the middle of that, and to never lose sight of everyone else who needs as well, so that we're not hoarding it all to ourselves. Like, if what's best for everyone is to be without, then why are we giving stuff to people? Wouldn't God want us to keep stuff away from people?
Yeah.
No,
Interesting.
it doesn't make sense. Why are we giving to people if we're not supposed to have? Like that's
Well, God also in the Old Testament tells us to tithe. Minimum
yeah,
is 10%, but he wants us to tithe to care for those around us who cannot or are incapable or are not old enough to care for themselves.
exactly. There's a purpose to the tithe, and the purpose is beyond the letter of the law of the tithe. It's not simply a
Mercy,
symbolic.
justice, and righteousness. That's what
Exactly.
Jesus quotes to the Pharisees.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, yes. That's a I can't tell you how many people who think that they are so godly because they are giving the gross of their 10%, because that's the
Hmm.
true
Yeah,
10%. And I'm like, who are you
yeah.
giving that gross to? What is that? What is work is it doing?
I
Is
mean,
it
not even just that. It's like you could just throw what Jesus said on the Sermon on the Mount. It's to go the second mile. Just don't just give without thinking. Like, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Give without really thinking about it. Give with care and love, and give until their helps, like their needs are satisfied. Like,
yes.
go the second mile for the person. If they ask for your cloak, if they ask for your cloak, give them your shirt as well. Like, just be great, be gracious for people, be caring for people. You know,
It's
I'm
the
gonna be.
spirit of the
Oh, sorry. I've
no,
never viewed
go for
tithing
it.
that way. I've always viewed it as like an offering to God and like recognizing like everything that we have is not ours, which
Yeah.
um yeah, I don't know. But
No,
that's
that's brilliant.
is it Jesus who says that when you give to someone else, you're giving to me? Isn't that is that Jesus who says that? And I think it's in Luke, isn't it?
You're thinking of the parable of the sheep and the goats when they're standing before the throne of God, and he says to the sheep that every time that blessed are you because when I was hungry you fed me,
Ah, that's what
and
it
when
was.
I was naked you clothed me, and when I was sick and in prison you visited me. Because every time you did that for the least of these of mine, you did it for me.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And that's a and and that actually gets at the heart of it. Like when even when you go back and look at the Mosaic laws for tithing, it's one thing to say, like, the churches will often reiterate, yeah, you're supposed to tithe because we need money, because people aren't giving us enough money to do all the stuff that we want to do. We
Hmm.
don't just want our money to be able to live, we also want to be able to serve missions and to be able to give to the poor, to be able to contribute to our community. It's not so much out of greed, it's out of desiring to do more. The thing is that when you look at the way that people teach tithing, is they teach it as a guilt-inspired compulsion, rather than when you look back at the actual ways that it was implemented, what happened with it. Every one of those tithes and every one of those offerings that would get offered on the altar, there are parts of it that would get burned off toward God. But they wouldn't burn the entire thing to ashes. They would have a cookout. They would take
yeah, I
what
just learned
was
about that. That's crazy.
yes, God was feeding the priests with it, but
Hmm.
also he was feeding the people who gave the offering. And he was and they were feeding the people in the community. Like there were like the God is like, okay, come stop hoarding and come bring your food and we're gonna have a cookout together. and, and so yeah,
Yeah, I love that God, like, that's kind of a theme throughout the Bible and, like, the breaking of the bread. Like, communion doesn't have to be centered on a meal, right? But it is. And it's like, it's about
Well,
fellowship.
yeah. Like, do you I know you read, but have you read in Acts where Paul, when he's in oh, hang on, I think he's in Antioch or somewhere. No, it's not Antioch. Hang on, I'll find it really quick. You guys can keep talking.
Mhm.
I was just gonna say, I mean, it's just like such a like peaceful and comforting thing to do. So I just think it's really cool that like the things that God like commands us are like super enjoyable. Like same with the Sabbath. Like Sabbath is made for man.
I
it
found
was
what I was looking for.
oh, you did?
Yes, it's Acts 20 when Paul's ministering at Troas.
Sorry, I was thinking you found you're looking for and getting to sleep. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
do tell.
Oh
It's
no no.
back to
So
tithing.
when Paul was talking, it describes when Paul was in Troas at the first day of the week, Sunday. When the disciples came together to break bread, Paul, ready to depart the next day, spoke to them and continued his message until midnight. So they met in the morning, had a meal, and then Paul preached until midnight, and then some guy fell out of a window because he fell asleep. But like, dude, it's
that's a
insane
party.
that, dude, yeah, it is. It's the celebration.
Hmm.
And I love that when they talk about breaking bread, that's the same thing. That's the same term we use when we talk about things like communion, which is why I do believe that the church should have communion every week.
Okay, thank
Mm.
you. My church is once a month and I'm so sad. My old one used to do
I
it
don't
every
like it either.
week.
We should do it every week because that's how it's described in Acts. Like that's the original church, right there.
If we're
You
going to
could even
talk about the original church was not giving out little micro
no,
wafers that are
no. They
made
were
out of
having
like some
bread and they were
rice
having
What?
flour.
wine and they
Are
were
you
having a meal.
serious?
So yeah, there's
Dude,
this
give me a whole loaf of bread.
yeah, I get that there's necessary allowances but in cultures like some people might not even have access to wine.
Yeah,
And so there's allowances made and with our health hazards that are around everywhere. I don't want to be drinking out of a glass that everybody else is drunk out of. No,
yeah.
thank you. I've given up pursuing entire denominations for that reason. I'm
Oh,
like I am
wow.
not drinking out of that cup.
I've been to a church like that. I was like floored.
Well,
Yeah, I
if
did
you
it
go to any
once.
any Eucharist ceremony with the Catholics or the Orthodox, they all do that.
It was like
Hmm.
some non-denom. They were trying to be all
Some of them do that.
cutesy.
The
Yes, they will
Lutherans
do
do
it.
that too, I believe. So I mean, even Protestants do it.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's some plenty of Protestants who do, and and I am not frequent. I'm not going through those doors, but but they are family, and I can get behind the concept in
We're family.
theory.
Just don't share your drink with me. I don't like that.
Exactly. I wouldn't. If if I didn't know where my sister's mouth had been, then I would not want to drink out of her glass. I wrote this song about it that I absolutely adore about the rich symbolism of just communion, let alone the rest of Passover.
Have you shared it?
Not on the server, no. So as I work on that, I'll probably be dropping more. But yeah, one of the things that God's really blessed in my life is my songwriting. I've I just
Do
I've
you
got a gift.
do you strictly do songwriting or do you like to sing and produce too?
Oh, I love to sing and produce. I was on my church's worship team for several years. I was playing harmonica.
Nice.
I'm a that's the instrument I'm best at. Just plain old country and blues harmonica. I got a didgeridoo, a bamboo
What?
didgeridoo in Chicago.
Didgeridoo?
Um, you ever heard of didgeridoo?
No, but that's a
It's
funny name.
it
What?
is.
Never. It's like a big wind instrument from like the people who are native to
It,
like Australia.
yeah,
Mm,
Australian Aborigines.
Hang, hang on. I'll
this
send
feels
you a
like very
picture from
niche
SpongeBob.
knowledge.
Hang on. Now, if you see SpongeBob, you know what a didgeridoo is.
Okay.
You once you hear it, like if you've heard it before, then you will recognize it as soon as you hear
That
it.
does
It
sound like
just
a very Australian name.
There it is.
Oh yeah, I
It's a
already
very weird language.
I already know what
love
you're
it.
trying to reference.
Yeah, it makes those sounds. And there's someone who's actually good at it can do circular breathing and
No
maintain the
way.
Yeah.
and maintain the tones for hours, just hours of
Hours?
constant playing. Yeah. I can't do that. I tried. I was shown how to do it in the mall in Chicago, and I've never gotten it down. But it's a but I've still got the instrument. My hand drum, I've got a decent sense of rhythm. Got that at a Ren fair. I've
Oh,
got
you've been
my
to a Ren fair?
oh yeah, I've been to a couple. Can't really I can't recommend them that highly
Really?
because it's fun to be surrounded by all the nerdiness. It's fun to have the archery competitions and stuff and to see the real craftsmanship there.
Yeah.
Like I got this knife that was forged from a railroad spike by a blacksmith.
No
And
way.
that's just oh yeah. They've got leather workers who will make you boots that fit to your feet. That
That's
look like you're
that's nice.
it's amazing. It's also expensive.
And so
And
you've been
Mhm.
once?
Yes, I have. I got a
I've been
nice
a few
belt and a bunch of swords.
Oh, in the squirrel
ooh.
pouch, right?
Yeah, I do. I have the scroll pouch. It's right next to my desk.
He dressed up as a monk.
I did.
Ooh,
I'll
cool.
put a picture if I can find it.
There you go.
And you see the scroll pouch on my hip.
Excellent.
That is a
Excellent.
legit squirrel, dude. I don't know. I don't know what happened, bro. They were just selling them. I was like, yo, I want that. That looks awesome.
Do you ever use it?
It just sits right next to my desk. Not really. I mean, I don't have a use for it right now.
It looks really soft.
It is extremely soft.
Dude,
I'm glad you get to enjoy it.
I had the weirdest experience with the squirrel the other day. I went to the library. This was like on the one of the 100-degree days, and the squirrel was climbing up this tree, and he looked like he was up to no good. And it was like right next to my car, so I like walk up, and he's not running away. So I'm like, why is this squirrel not afraid of me? And so I like just start to like reach my hand up to it, and I could have touched his tail, but I didn't want him to bite me. So I just stared at him, and then he just slowly walked up and like was watching me the whole time. I was like, you don't have very good um survival skills, I would say.
Probably people in the neighborhood are just feeding them. Was he like really fat?
No, he was skinny.
Oh wow.
Squirrels are they don't have certain instincts that other animals do.
Oh, my parents, their house is like on a slope. So they have like this deck outside, like as their backyard. But their backyard is like a forest. So it's like this wooden deck, and then in like 2 stories down is the ground. So there's like these giant poles holding the deck up. And they have this bird feeder attached to the railing. And the squirrels like climb up these poles and like get over the metal railing and over all the like they I don't know how they do it. And one of them was so good at it, we called him, I think, Fat Sam or something, because he got so big. And my mom's like,
Perfect.
I hate this squirrel, like it's for the birds.
That's the thing. Squirrels are geniuses. But each animal's got its niche. It's got its thing that it does. Like personally, I can't imagine an arboreal creature that spends most of its time like flying from tree to tree in just these reckless leaps and imagine it I can't imagine it like having fear, you know?
That sounds kind of like a superpower almost.
It does.
No
It's
fear
it
at all.
they're just like a race of daredevils.
No anxiety for squirrels. I want their brains.
They just don't have the capacity of thought for, man, this is a bad idea. They
No
just do it.
thought,
They don't.
head empty.
Yeah,
They're
literally.
not courageous. They're just ignorant. They're just
All right, I have a random would you rather question for you guys.
go for it.
Would you rather be homeless in a crowded city or alone on a space station with endless supplies?
Alone in a crowded city.
Homeless. You have to be homeless.
Yes. Yeah.
Homeless in a crowded city
Yeah.
or alone on a space station with unlimited supplies. Okay, I'm finding myself trying to game out of this. Like, what kind of supplies we talking?
Don't meta game.
Endless.
Don't meta game.
All right, all right. To get to the spirit of the question, um, I am more tempted to say being alone on a space station than I would like, and that's
That's
kind of a
bold.
flaw in myself. It's something that I love people, and oftentimes it's easiest for me to deal with people from a distance because when with the people around me, there's a lot of I'm able to socialize with them okay, but I have problems with if they get too close to me in person. When there's there I always feel like there needs to be some distance in order to maintain safety. And that's something
That's
that
very self-aware.
yeah, it's I've had some friendships um that have suffered both when I have tried to just squash that and be like, okay, I'm just going to be there for this other person. That went badly,
Well, friendships are
and
hard.
I've had friendships that have gone badly from just letting myself be in my comfort zone. So
Well,
it
and
takes wisdom.
it would be cool to see Earth from space.
Now,
It
see,
would.
I have
And
one big problem with that.
what?
Do you guys see how like astronauts will blow like water bubbles and stuff like that, and it floats around? That
Yeah.
happens in their bodies too. It's like all the blood
Mm.
from like their legs floats up to their brains, and we actually don't know the long term effects to that, so that could easily just kill you.
Okay, it wouldn't necessarily be weightless. Like I could get where that might be bad, but there's account ways people account for that. Like they'll set a rotation on the vessel to create false gravity, for example. And so, like, I wouldn't, all things being equal, let's say, I would rather it would be an extended debate, and in the end, I would end up picking being homeless in a city full of people.
In the
But
end.
I mean,
but it would
I'd rather deal with a hell I know than a hell I don't.
Ooh, that's a good point.
You know,
and
like I don't know what's gonna happen when I'm out in space. Like, so it's just me out in space, man. Like, what happens if like I don't know something breaks on the star station, whatever you want to call it? Like, I'm just stuck out there. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh
oh
boy,
yeah,
and I just die. Like,
Meh.
at least
yeah.
I know how to deal with people in a city. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, the thing is, I have been in dangerous and perilous situations and been in crazy mental states and everything and like alone outside and or just by myself. And
Mhm.
as crazy as it is and as awful as it feels, it's nothing compared to the terror that can be wrought from the darkness within other people's hearts. Like, other people really mess each other up.
True.
And that's where it would get really rough for me. It's like, okay, it's one thing to be homeless and to be
yeah.
around the cruelty of nature.
I think
Yeah,
it
it's
depends on
awful.
like what city you're gonna be in too.
Yeah.
Like if
Philadelphia.
it's downtown Salt Lake, sign me up. It's very clean. It's very clean
There
I
over
you
there.
agree.
go.
Do you enjoy your server dad role?
I do. And that's the thing is that despite being somebody who could not stand being around kids too much because I'd kind of shrivel up into a raisin and die, I love contributing to people's lives. I love being there with them and being a support and getting a chance to help them along is just like it makes me feel like it's not in vain, you know? Like God made us to share with each other. And I would feel like I, I didn't get to be human
Hmm.
as much as other people did because I kept my humanity to myself. Like I kept all the stuff that God gave me and I hoarded it. And there's people out there who I want to pour into their lives, and selfishly, it's great that they recognize me, that they appreciate that I'm there, that they're like, "Oh, hey, server dad. Oh, thanks, server dad." And it's like there's this selfish joy as well that comes from getting to pour into other people's lives and getting to see that plant grow, getting to see that legacy live on, getting to see getting to see these people better off because I was in their lives.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
That
that's
that's
super
just too real.
meaningful.
Yeah,
What's
I'm
like
the
your?
same way.
Oh, really?
Dude, I love helping people. Like, somebody I was talking to was let me go to where they said it. My heart almost exploded. It was adorable to me. I was like, oh, this is so nice. Where it was uh I was like, you're a good kid, and they were like, I am indeed a child. I said, you missed the whole point of what I said to you.
I am
And
indeed a child.
they were like, well, you're a good mentor. So I was like, no, that's adorable. So I know exactly where it was coming from with that. It is.
uh,
It's a nice feeling because you know
Yeah.
that like they took what mistakes you made in your life and they learned from it. Like, yo, I wouldn't do that. Trust me, I did it when I was your age. It's a bad idea. And they're
mhm.
like, okay, and then they don't do it, and it's like, oh man, they learned. No way.
Just
The mistakes
score.
I made in life, yeah, literally, the mistakes I made in life are gonna benefit somebody. Let's go.
Yeah,
It's not in vain.
Yeah, it wasn't
exactly.
just dumb suffering.
That's a good
Mhm.
feeling.
Yeah.
What's your like go-to advice, or like what kind of wisdom do you like imparting onto people?
One of
Uh,
my favorite bits of advice that I impart onto people is that there's a reason that the way that God reveals himself primarily is as a father.
Hmm.
There are a lot of names that he could have given himself for how he relates with his creatures and particularly with humanity. And he chose Father. And every time that we see God as a father, we see him acting. We tend to view it from our perspective, but the more that we understand about what it means to be a father, the more that we understand about what it is to have children and the difficulties that come with them and how we relate with them and what we try to impart on them and the feelings that we experience toward them, the more that we can understand the heart of God and how he feels toward us, how he relates with us. Like people get so caught up in, oh, we give nothing to God. We are nothing before his all-powerful sovereignty. We are caught up in his predestination. If his plans are cannot be thwarted. Thanks be to God, I am a worm and I am unworthy of
I
all
am
that he
my
has passed
word.
upon me. And may God be pleased by my utter abnegation. If my kid came up to me like that, I would be like, child, I'm trying to give you bread. Stop asking for stones and scorpions.
Wait, there's a really good artist account I found that represents the father relationship really well with us. Let me find it real quick.
that's
It's
good though. That's
I
a good
I grew up
perspective.
like fearing my dad, so I'm having a hard time
Mm,
like unlearning that with my faith.
yeah,
Let me
I
see.
think that's the case for a lot of us.
I'll
Yeah,
just
I know what you mean, but with me, it's um oh, I just read it. I think it's in oh,
Oh.
it's funny. I actually, when you shared that on Instagram, I got recommended a bunch of videos from that
Oh,
person.
really?
Yeah, I follow them now. They're good art. They really do.
Yeah, they make some really cute little reels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Wait, let me see if
it's like I I think it's in Psalms where it's like God doesn't enjoy tormenting his children or something. I forget where that is in the Bible, but like he doesn't go out of his way to torment you. So it's
No.
like I have nothing to really fear from God the Father. Like my every dad I feel like is mean in some way
Mm.
because I mean they're people. Yeah, that's like the biggest thing I've had to learn is
Mm.
man, my parents were people. They
Yup.
made a lot of mistakes when I was little. It's a
Yeah.
good thing we all learn and grow as people.
yeah, that's something I'm definitely adopting now.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from, Wayover, with the whole. It's meaningful to impart some wisdom on somebody in their life.
Yeah.
It's like that pay it forward mentality.
Mm-hmm. And
I love it.
it's like humanity, like there's a reason that we have the patterns we do. And I'm not a believer that we should just do things because we feel like doing them. I think that the things that we feel like doing are clues as to as to our purpose. And
Mhm.
that sin is the disordering of those inclinations.
That's so funny. My dad says the same thing. Of
Oh,
like sin is
all right.
like like warping what like the original purpose of things.
Exactly. Sin
Well,
is a
and that
warping.
it yeah, it just is because we were made to um serve and fellowship with the Father, and sin made us self-serving and self-worshiping. So it literally is just the warping of what God made us for.
Yeah,
Sad.
that's
Okay.
a oh, I get so teary-eyed over good dads in fiction. Like I still remember when I first watched spoiler warning for How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Oh, that's I cry on that in that series. It's so good.
Oh man, it's so good. I think I still haven't seen the third one, but I watched the first two for sure. And when spoiler warning for again in case you didn't catch the first one, um, it's when Stoic is there and he sees his wife for the first time after he just after he hadn't seen her for ages, and he's just like just blown away. And then and Hiccup's there to see his family get back together again for a time, and just like and just to have a family again. It was just so, it hit me so hard in the feels that I was just sitting there bawling all the way through till he died.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, that's a good family dynamic.
it's great to see good families in fiction
Oh,
because we seem to have this idea that everyone's supposed to be faulty. And it's like, okay, yes, people are supposed to be faulty, but that doesn't mean that we should be setting the example to be faulty. We should be showing what
Yeah.
good looks like as well.
a good family dynamic is in the Across the Spider-Verse. Miles' parents are like super solid.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be fun.
I know a really good book that has a really good father mother dynamic. It's called the Bible. Tells us how to be a good father and
The
or mother.
Bible.
I don't know, man. I think the one after God's heart was kind of a mess.
No, man,
For every
it's
good
so good.
relationship. It's it's a beautiful book. But that's one of the strange things about the Bible for me actually. And one of the things I love about good literature is when you can just keep digging into it
Hmm.
and it keeps revealing more as you do.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, I know how this story's going to end, but at the same time, I don't know why this character did this, but
Yeah,
I'm getting to understand it. Oh yeah, he's a
that's why I know when I die and go to heaven, and I challenge John to a fighting match because of the ending of John. He'll take me up on that offer. I know he will. I will brawl with him in heaven. Dude, that's so disrespectful
Brawl.
to the end of John.
Wait,
No,
what are you
dude.
talking about?
the end
So
of
at the end of
John.
John, yeah, this disciple who testifies of these things and wrote these things, and we know that his testimony is true. And there are
Mhm.
also many other things that Jesus did, which,
Oh.
if they were written one by one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that would have been written. Amen. I'm fighting him for that, bro. I want to know every little detail
Cliffhanger.
about Jesus. Yeah. How dare he? How dare he deny any information of my favorite person to have ever lived? I don't care. I'm
Mhm.
fighting him.
You
It's
could just,
happening.
or you could just ask him.
No, I'm fighting him. That's
Okay.
just disrespect. That's disrespect right there. How dare he? I'm gonna get up to heaven. I'm gonna walk through the pearly gates. Go, all right, where is he? Is John sitting there at the table with Jesus? Nah, bro, we're fighting right now. Throwing hands.
I was just reading today that Jesus did something similar, but he did it in such a more gracious way. It was in the same book, the book of John. Jesus is going through his whole giant spiel to the disciples before he goes through his ordeal. And he's like, I have many more things to say to you, but you can't bear them now.
Yeah.
And then he follows it right up with, okay, but I'm going to send the Holy Spirit and he will lead you into all truth. So
Yeah.
when Jesus does it, he's like, he has a promise that goes
Okay,
with it,
listen.
you know?
No, see, it's different because he said, I'm gonna send somebody that will reveal it to
That
you.
will
But I
reveal
can't
it.
tell you now. John's just like, nope, too bad.
Too much.
Wait,
That's
wait and
so
see.
much disrespect.
Oh,
Unbelievable.
that's that our comfort in heaven will be that, well, we've got all the time in the world now, John. We've got all the time.
Yeah, he can tell you about it after we're done fighting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell Jesus, put up a boxing ring. We're fighting right now.
Do you even know
we
how to
got time for
Happening.
that.
box?
I know how to fight, sister. Let me
Do
tell you.
you?
No.
Oh.
But see, you know
Well, you
what the
do have a lot
beautiful
of
thing?
brothers.
Yeah, I know
Mhm.
how to fight. I've been in 2 fights in school.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah.
you totally know then.
Hey, listen. All right. I grew up as the youngest of 4, all brothers. I know how to fight.
Oh
I
yeah,
had to
you
fight
have
to
brothers.
survive.
Mm.
Well, I
I didn't
hope
have
I
to do
can be
anything.
there for the
Oh, for
the
me beating
match.
up John.
Yeah.
Nah.
What about you, Candy? Any combat experience?
I took one boxing class and then realized it was too expensive, so I never
Oh.
took it again. But if I had like disposable income, I would totally get into boxing.
Surprisingly, like savvy.
Savvy?
Yeah, like it's pretty uncommon in my experience for people to think about their footwork.
Oh
And
yeah,
they don't realize how profoundly advantageous it is. Like everyone who's truly experienced in combat becomes intimately familiar with
Oh
their
yeah.
footwork, and boxers are masters of footwork.
Okay,
It's
well, it
like,
depends on the boxer, right? Because like Mike Tyson wasn't a master of footwork. He was just, I'll tank every hit you get and I'll knock you out with one punch. All right,
that's
let's
crazy.
let's be
there's that.
real. Yeah,
But the
like
art of boxing,
yeah, yeah.
it's just
You
profound
have the
that way.
featherweights and like the flyweights, which they're just like really fast, so they have to be good with their feet because they can't throw a punch to save their life. And then you have like the
Mhm.
bulldozers, like the heavyweights. They'll just tank it and then just knock you out.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
It's a and
same thing in
the
MMA.
combat arts are profound that way, but boxing it tunes into something really primal because unlike some other of the arts, like especially ones that involve a lot of kicks and learning new movements that the body is good at but aren't necessarily natural to the body, the boxing is very natural to what the body does. Like your feet do what feet do, which is
Yeah.
move, and your hands do what hands do. Your arms
Yep.
do what arms do. It's like it's so it taps into something really primal within us, and every part of your body is doing something well that it normally does. That it's just like I've developed a lot more respect for boxing than I used to have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a really cool sport. It's very fun to watch.
yeah.
Have you ever seen HEMA? Wayover?
Hmm. I've
Historical European martial arts. It's like
I've
they're
watched
like knights.
videos about it.
Dude, it's so cool.
I haven't watched like tournaments or anything like that.
Crazy. Like their movements are so fluid, it's insane. Like I sent one to um Key on the server today,
Mm.
and dude, it's like this guy goes for a swing. The person who filmed it blocked, slid them into his cross guards, and then just flipped over and hit him with a sword. It was literally just one motion, just just got him, hit him right in the head. It's impressive. Like, it's so, it's almost like motionless. It's insane just watching these fights go down.
Martial prowess is profound. Like people don't realize what it means to be embodied in conflict.
Have you guys
It's
seen sumo wrestling?
Yes.
watched a couple. It's like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I got to see like a live practice of it, and they're like giant, and they're super flexible, which is like I feel like counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just crazy to see them, and it's like so simple too. It's just like moving one way or the other.
Yeah.
And it's so elite. It's like, wow.
Yeah, like sumo wrestlers are held in very high regard in Japanese society. They're like, wow, this is like boxers and stuff. It's very interesting.
I like the
Yeah.
idea of boxing because it gives me a reason to like beat someone up without like getting in a fight.
Mm. Oh yeah, that's good.
But I think I
You
would
know,
probably get beat up.
See, now, if we have a studio, we will have a boxing ring. I'm telling you right now.
No, that wouldn't be fair.
Why?
You'd get hurt.
Okay. Whatever helps you
best-
sleep at night, Candy.
The best self-defense that you can possibly get for yourself is running.
Running.
Yes.
Oh, I guess that's true, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is number one.
That's
the
what
best
every like self-defense instructor is like. First thing, if you can, run away. Like, there's no
Yeah.
point in fighting if you don't have to.
You know,
Yeah.
I got winded like closing the windows in my apartment the other day, and I was like, that's actually
well-
disgusting. I need to go running.
Actually, that's not very surprising to me,
Why?
Ma.
Okay. I don't know. I was doing something and I was like, why am I winded right now? It's
If you're willing to get active and if you're willing to get active and your goal is to actually just defend yourself, then the one recommendation that I would make the most, and this is going to sound stupid until you think about it for a bit, and I will help you think through it if needed. Parkour.
parkour.
Yes.
I'm not
Because-
practicing that in public.
Oh, you don't have to practice. They have like classes for it and stuff, and you go into these gyms and they've got like pads and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that
around.
low-key sounds fun though.
Yeah, the thing is that
Candy, you
It's-
can't
that
take your
par-
walker when you go parkouring. I'm just
Okay.
telling you
parkour
now.
and
Okay.
free running. I'm frail, so I'm not just old. I am also frail and completely unrelated matter. So I can't do it as much as I want to.
Have you done it
I'm
before?
famous. I used to do stuff like it when I was a teenager without the training. So I actually did get some training from a ninja actually.
No
and-
way.
It was and that helped a lot in my mobility and my ability to get things done, but it wasn't for a very long period of time. I learned enough to do a jumping somersault, so I was able to leap over obstacles and like leap onto my hands and then somersault over them, so I could like jump over pretty high barriers that way.
That's
But
crazy.
that's
impressive.
but that was one of the few things that I learned to do the splits and stuff, and there were some like some running tactics that I've forgotten, and there were a few other things I learned off it, but it was very, very short time. It will also help you outrun pursuers because the pursuers won't be as experienced in crossing those same obstacles. If you can just monkey clamber over a fence or do a couple wall jumps and get onto a nearby roof, like you just
Imagine.
it might
You get
save your
dumped by
life.
a bunch of people that are experienced in parkour, then you're cooked.
Then you're cooked.
Yeah. You just watch like some dude like wall kick off like some wall jump up on the roof you're on. Now it's over. Like that's it.
At that
like,
point,
dude,
you
you know
start
what?
screaming for the police.
Nah.
We are about to hit our 2-hour mark.
Oh my goodness.
Woo!
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, we've been yapping.
Yapping.
It's a
Yeah.
you're
fun,
cool family. That's a you get a chance to chat.
True.
Well, thanks
so
for
the
coming on.
Breaking bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should ask our guests to like actually eat food. Or maybe
Have
that
some
would.
ASMR of him eating something.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I would have totally done that for you guys. Just get the mouth sounds in there.
No.
Totally. Oh yeah. Make sure that I get it nice and moist before I swallow.
No.
It's great to hang out with you guys. That's
Yeah.
you both are lovely. Thanks so much.
It's good to like learn more about you too. It's been a lot of
True.
fun.
We get more dad lore.
More dad lore. We love it. How should we end our podcast? Say
Favorite bread type?
Oh.
Rye.
Wait, what
the
did you say?
spicy
Ezio?
kind.
Rye.
Rye?
I
And
forgot. I forgot.
spicy?
No, she calls it spicy.
What bread is
She-
spicy?
Rye bread.
No, she has the spice tolerance of like I don't even know Elmer's glue.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
what
mostly
about you, Candy?
joking.
Mhm. Uh-huh.
My favorite right now is sourdough, I would say.
Of course.
Yeah, but I like a good wheat loaf.
That's
Mm.
fair. Very fair.
What about you, Wayover?
I've got I haven't made it in years, but I make a mean French bread
Ooh.
Nice.
that always disappears in like hours.